In chapters 9 and 10, we're going to talk about the next step, which is strategy implementation. This is what you're doing already with the capstone simulation project. It gives you practice implementing the strategy. So you're experiencing this now. In the basic questions we will answer in this chapter: who are the people to carry out the strategic plan? Who's responsible for it? What must be done to align the company operations and other functional areas in the intended direction? And yes, they are interdependent, should work together. And how is everyone going to work together to do what is needed? So we're going to talk about those issues in these chapters. Strategy implementation involves, and we've always said this entire semester, allocating resources. The strategic plan is really a plan about allocating resources. All organizations have a limited amount of resources: capital resources, human resources, production resources, financial resources. So, how do we allocate them in a way that maximizes the organization's ability to meet its long-term objectives? And the key is to motivate people. To motivate people, you have to train, develop, evaluate, and reward them based on their behaviors. So we're going to tie rewards to the achievement of results and create a corporate culture that is supportive to the strategy. And it requires leadership. Leadership is about change management, isn't it? We like lists, don't we? Here's a list of the 10 most common strategy implementation problems. I thought you might be interested in it. It's in your textbook as well. And the first one is it took more time than planned. So it's key then, as we go through this, to think about the deadlines that we're going to set ourselves in terms of implementing each phase of the plan. You will always have unanticipated things occur. That's something that you can't always forecast. But it's how you handle these, unexpected things that will mean more in terms of developing corporate culture and motivating your employees to get the plan done, to really implement the plan and achieve the objectives that you had set. Poor coordination, and that again goes back to leadership and management, and training and developing your managers. And your mid to lower level managers will oftentimes be responsible for implementing the strategic plan aspects of it. So they will also need to be trained, developed, and of course evaluated and rewarded on their ability to get these things done. Those are all very common problems, and again, it points back to leadership, but developing a plan that is tied to your long-term goals. The key is, of course, to motivate people to get things done, to move them in the right direction. The strategy is a long-term action plan, but we need to specifically state what actions need to get done by whom, during what time frame, using the SMART objectives. We've talked about that, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and with a timetable. So when we develop our strategic plan, we want to make sure that the objectives and the goals are stated in a way that's measurable and also gives us a deadline. We tend to be motivated by deadlines because employees are very busy and they need to know where to focus their efforts. In strategy implementation, we talk about the idea of creating synergy. What is synergy? I know you've heard that word before. Synergy is when your return on investment is greater than what it would be if each functional area were operating independently. So leads to more productivity in each person working apart. It removes the duplication of effort, and it also allows coordination and shared tangible resources so that you can get the economies of scale or scope that can improve your return on investment. Structure follows strategy. What do we mean by that? Well, the changes in corporate strategy typically will lead to changes in organizational structure. And typically what happens is, as the new strategy is created, there will be certain administrative problems or inefficiencies that are noted. So it might be that the temporarily economic performance actually declines rather than improves. We see the inefficiencies and create a new structure. The type structure depends on the strategy, depends on customers, it depends on the industry. But the strategy used should be the one that's the most efficient and that can allow for synergy that we've talked about earlier. Now, here's the thing: strong cultures are resistant to change. In fact, change is almost a dirty word to most people. Most people fear change, fear what they don't know. They fear the things that they can't anticipate. And so when you're really talking about someone's job or someone's livelihood, then of course their likelihood to resist change out of fear that it might do something to affect their own job, then that's going to be even greater, isn't it? So what we have to understand is that employees will naturally resist change and then develop a plan on how to combat that. And that's what leadership is all about, isn't it? Leadership is about change management, is about looking forward to the future and looking at ways to change the organization. Management is about managing the day-to-day activities. So you really need both leaders and managers to get a strategic plan implemented. So communication is key. You really can't communicate too much. And what we're trying to do is to create the sense of urgency, the need for change. And we do that by communicating the strategic vision, where we see the organization 5 or 10 years down the road. Communication is going to be key here in terms of moving people, and we have to back that up, of course, with investments in training, development, evaluating and rewarding employees to motivate them to do those behaviors we feel are most likely to lead to our long-term performance outcomes. You might remember John Cotter. He is one of the nation's leading experts on change management. He developed an 8-step change plan that I thought you might like to see. And we've talked about this. The very first step is creating the sense of urgency. We need to communicate to our employees. And again, the key here is communication. Communicate to our employees why the change is necessary and what will happen if we don't change. The second step is forming a coalition, a group of people who have the power and who can support. These are the change leaders, the change agents, have the power, and that power might be persuasive power or it could be formal power given by the organization to lead the change effort. So we create our vision that will direct the change effort and then develop strategies for achieving that vision. Communicate the vision, empower others by removing the barriers, get rid of the obstacles to change. Any system or structure that undermines the vision, we need to change that. Encouraging risk taking so that you can remove the fear of change that many employees will have. Create and reward employees. Of course, we want to develop them, recognize and reward employees involved in the change and who are making the changes in behaviors and in performance outcomes along the way. So continually assess it, adjust it. That's going to be critical. Remaining flexible as changes in the environment occur, but be aware that employees will tend to resist the change that will happen and have a plan on how you move them to make the changes necessary to implement your strategic plan. I'm sure you've heard of Six Sigma. Many of you might have had additional training at work, or maybe you've taken a class on Six Sigma. What is Six Sigma? It's an analytical method for achieving near perfect results on a production line. It has to do mostly with manufacturing firms, but it can be also used in service firms as well. The steps are, as you can see, defining the process where the results are below average, measuring the process to determine the current performance, where are we now, that's your benchmark, and then analyzing the information so that you can determine where the inefficiencies are occurring. So that's a constant process that goes on in the organization. You might have heard of Lean Six Sigma, which is Six Sigma with removing the unnecessary production steps and fixing any other steps that might create a more lean organization, a more efficient organization. So we're really trying to capitalize on synergies, potential synergies, but also looking at those steps that can be removed. And it's a very scientific approach to developing the efficiencies you need to make your organization more profitable. Similar to Six Sigma's total quality management. Total quality management is more of a management philosophy that we're committed to internal and external customer satisfaction and continuous improvement. What we're trying to do then is develop a better or less variable quality of product and service. So that typically means quicker response time, greater flexibility in adjusting to customers' requirements and their needs, and lower costs through quality improvements and the elimination of what we call non-value added work. That's work that are jobs that are not adding to the total. So really not creating synergies and in fact might even cause inefficiencies. The essential ingredients to a TQM plan is an intense focus on customer satisfaction and looking at your customers as not just those who purchase our products, but also our internal customers, our human resources as well. And again, focusing on developing them and evaluating and rewarding them on the activities that we think are critical to achieving our long-term strategic plan. So we need to be able to measure every critical variable in the company's operations, and we are committed to continuous improvement. So we're constantly measuring to see where we can improve, where we can learn from past experience and improve on them. As we said before, we're going to use the funnel approach in managing our implementation of the strategic plan. And what that requires is we start off again very broad objectives from the organizational level and then go all the way down to each strategic business unit, each department, and each and every employee, so that each and every employee has his or her own objectives and they know what they need to accomplish during the time frame to help the organization, to assist the organization in achieving its long-term objectives. So again, when employees meet their objectives, then we have also a plan to reward them, evaluate and reward them on those important behaviors. You might have experienced this in your own employment history. Hopefully you haven't, but if you've ever been in an organization that was going through retrenchment, which is basically downsizing, you know that it typically can lead to lower employee morale and lower employee motivation as well. You tend to get the brain drain where people think they see the writing on the wall, or really don't have faith that the organization is going to be able to come back and grow again. So what we have found in throughout looking at management history in our research is that successful downsizing really focuses on jobs and eliminating unnecessary work that doesn't add value to the organization. So it requires measurement of each position, each job, and each job's contribution to the long-term plan. And we also might look at ways to contract out work that can be done by other organizations. The key here, though, is that we don't contract out those activities that are critical to the company's existence. Those activities that are very important to our customers should be kept in-house. Let's look for ways that we can create the synergies and the long-run efficiencies. But again, here, the key is going to be communicating why it's necessary and investing in our remaining employees so that we can develop them and create more value-added jobs, the jobs that do contribute more in creating efficiencies that increase profitability as well.